for coming on the show. This is your first time on. We might have you on again next week to discuss some results. In the grand scheme of things, how big is this UFC fight?
Well, they do the International Fight Week once a year, which is they hold the convention. They have a giant card, mostly always a title fight on the card, and that's this weekend. So it's pretty big. I mean, they wait a long time to put a title fight like this on, and they actually have two this weekend. The co-main event is Ronda Rousey's title fight. So it's a big fight. It's a huge card, sold out, been sold out for a while. And like I said, International Fight Week. So a lot of people will be in Vegas. A lot of people will be watching this weekend.
Now, we're two guys who do not know a lot about MMA, so we're going to try and dumb it down for our audience a little bit. You got Chris Weidman going up against Lyoto Machida. Is that the way you pronounce that? We got some tough names.
Yeah, Lyoto.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then you got Ronda Rousey, who, if people don't know, she is a female. She's undefeated. She is somewhat attractive.
Somewhat.
She is a huge draw to this, to the ultimate fighting, to MMA, whatever you may call it right now. Has her star power even reached her potential, or is she just getting started?
You know, it's pretty amazing how far she's come in just a few short years. You know, before she entered the UFC, she was fighting in Strikeforce, and, you know, not even a year before that, she was still bartending there, you know, to get her way by. Now she's in movies with The Rock. She's
Expendables, right?
And the star power is incredible, and I don't even know if it's reached its peak, which is the scary part. But she's definitely great for the sport. She's a polarizing figure. A lot of people love her. A lot of people hate her. But everyone's talking about her. I think she's done a great job in wearing the UFC logo. The UFC loves her, and it's exciting to see a person like that, especially a female, just very short after the females were introduced to the UFC, be kind of a representative for the sport.
She's they hit the lottery with her as far as, like, she's an incredibly great heel. You know, she's great at playing the villain. Didn't she win a medal in the Olympics for judo? Is that correct? Her mom is like
she won the bronze medal in the Olympics.
You know, it's her little move. So her little move is she makes people tap out with like an arm bar or something. Is that correct?
Yeah, she ends up with the arm bar, but she doesn't get it conventionally. You know, the judo toss is how she gets in a position, and she's so good at that, like the best in the world.
Is that just a dominating move that move seems like it's the best move in the entire sport because she does it every time and wins every match with it.
Yeah, I mean, she's the specialist at it in every sense of the word. Once she gets you in the position up against the fence, the judo toss is coming next, and there's very, very little you can do to prevent it.
Now, she's a minus $1,600 favorite to beat Sarah McMahon. They are both similar in size, similar in height, all that stuff. Age, I'm not positive about. Would you risk $1,600 for her to win 100? Is this a pretty gimme fight?
You know what? As a betting man, I would put some money on Alexis Davis, and that's only because of the line. And you know, another reason is that Alexis Davis is a serious veteran. She's fought forever. She's on a pretty sweet winning streak. I believe she's won 5 in a row. She's training in Northern California with Uriah Faber at Team Alpha Male with a bunch of really, really talented guys. And she's proven herself. Like, she's fought high talent, and she's beat them with convincing fashion. And Ronda is, she's the favorite to win this fight, obviously. And I do see Ronda coming out on top, mostly by armbar. I see that happening on Saturday. But at the same time, Alexis Davis is plus 1,100 on some sites, and I think all it takes is one good kick, one good punch for Ronda to go down, and Alexis Davis to seal in the rear naked choke, and then suddenly you got a new champion. But as a betting man, I would put some money on Alexis Davis.
Now, why is everybody so fascinated with two women fighting? Is it that there's a chance that they may kiss, or that there might be some clothes torn off, or do people actually think that these are, fundamentally great fights and all that stuff, or are they just hoping for something absurd to happen?
I think it's a split. I think half the people are very interested in the technical abilities and appreciate the females, talent, and then there's another half who appreciate the other type of talent in watching the girls, and I think that's kind of the problem. I was listening earlier. You were talking about the fan base of MMA, and I agree with that. It's frustrating because the fans aren't exactly the greatest representative of how far the sport has come. They're still living in the past, I guess you could say. And, at the end of the day, a lot of eyes are on these girls, and I think that's kind of what matters. So
That was my next question. As far as you go to these events and you can like feel the crowd and what's going on. So a big fight comes up. I mean, I think I bartend, Mike bartend. Like these UFC fights are on every week. I think I've seen 150 of these, 175
every weekend now. I feel like.
And like when John Jones fights, I mean, I'm geeked for that. I mean, he's fun to watch, guys like that. So let's say, when does this Rousey fight go off? Will she be the last one, or is the Machida fight the last one?
Second to last, yeah.
Is it second to last?
Yeah, second to last, yep.
Second to last.
She's going to be the co-main event. So I think by the time Ronda gets into the octagon, the bar, or wherever you're watching the fight, is going to reach it's close to its max excitement level, because Ronda has fought in, I think, all main events thus far. Even back in February of last year, February of 2013, she was the headliner above Dan Henderson and Lyoto Machida. They were the co-main event.
So you're telling me that people are getting geeked when this is happening. The air doesn't come out of the building, when the women go and fight. People are just as jacked to watch that as they are to watch the guys fight. When it comes to Ronda Rousey, yes. Okay. No, it's just. I mean, she is fun to watch. I mean, she is a beast. And, I think she's probably in that, like, everybody's rooting against her at this point. Would you say that most people, are there, like, and again, are there little girls there that, like, people are bringing their daughters there and it's opened up a whole new demographic for the sport? I think that's happened a little bit on accident with Ronda Rousey playing the role model. And I think the UFC is kind of rolling with that, but I don't think it's a significant portion of the people watching. There might be, a few here and there. But I do think Ronda's playing a great heel. Like you said, she, after a while, realized people weren't crazy about her, so she turned heel, and I love it because it's who she is, and she goes out there and she does her thing, and she gets a lot of boos, but at the end of the day, she's the best female fighter, and she's proven it.
Now the main headline fight, Chris Weidman, Machida. Weidman is minus 190, Machida plus 160. Where does your money go?
I got to put my money on Weidman for this fight. I think there's a new breed of fighter coming out in these past few months and past year around, and with Weidman being the champion, dethroning Silva like he did. I think a guy like Weidman is so well-rounded, it's just scary. Every single position he can put himself in a fight, he can thrive under. He's young, he's athletic. I think he's just in his prime right now, and his momentum. He beats Anderson Silva twice. And he a fight with Machida. The only reason why I think Machida could win this fight is because of his experience. I think he's fought title fights, and that's going to help him big time. The bright lights won't affect him as much. And another thing is he just moved down to 185 pounds, and he's got this new swagger about him. He moves differently. He's quicker. He's got a couple not really too boring wins, which, in the past he's gotten, like I said, he fought Dan Henderson, and that fight was a snoozer. They were both just kind of waiting to engage the whole time, which it was kind of frustrating. But then he dropped to 185 pounds. He's quicker. He has been knocking guys out. So, Machida could win this fight. Machida could win any single fight he's in. But I would take Weidman this weekend. Are these, what's the weight class for these guys? Like compared to, they're not like heavyweights, right? Are they kind of in the it's middleweight, 185 pounds.
They're always the best fights. I mean, I hate watching the big guys fight. It's so freaking boring.
That's fun sometimes.
No, because
you
got
just two aggressive big guys.
Like who was the Mexican guy that was it Dos Santos, or was there a guy?
Cain Velasquez.
Yeah, Cain Velasquez. I don't know. I mean, they're just like, they throw a couple haymakers and they look like they get tired. The little dudes, they're the ones that are like, they're beasts, and they land the most blows. They're like on the ground,
standing around going like this, waiting for someone to do something. You base your boxing style off of butterbean. How can you not like the big guys? Machida's 36 years old. That's almost as old as you. That's old.
Almost. He's almost there.
That's older than me.
Explain to me why I've never heard the name Uriah before, and now I'm looking at this card, and there's two guys on the card named Uriah, and they spelled their names differently.
And they're both heavy
That's pretty
favorites.
Weird.
They're both heavy favorites.
Yeah. Well, Uriah Faber, he's been around. He's been around since the WEC. Everyone knows who he is. He was a California kid, fighting with those cornrows on those shows of the WEC, and now he's in the UFC and he's done great. He can't get a title though. He's trying so hard, he can't get it. So he's trying to work his way back up. And Alex Caceres, who he's fighting this weekend, it might be in a little over his head. So I would take Faber. Faber's a heavy favorite. And then you got Uriah Hall, who was on the last season of The Ultimate Fighter, who is, I guess you could say, he is hindered by his own mind. He's an incredibly talented fighter. He showed one of the grossest looking knockouts I think I've ever seen on The Ultimate Fighter last season with that spinning kick. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's everywhere on the internet, so you can find it. The only problem he has is psyching himself out. In his few fights in the UFC and in his fights in The Ultimate Fighter, he has the physical ability to win every single fight he's in, but you can tell he psychs himself out. He doesn't engage. It's just one of those things. Under the bright lights, he fights differently.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about on kind of a serious note, how strict is the drug testing in MMA right now? I feel like you hear about guys getting popped all the time, and it's still not nearly as much as you would think. What kind of drug tests do these guys have to go through?
Yeah, well, right now it's kind of been having a little bit of an issue because what they do is the state athletic commissions drug test the fighters. So anywhere they're fighting, whether it's in Vegas, if it's in Vegas, it's going to be the Nevada State Athletic Commission. They will test the fighters, usually randomly leading up to the fight, and then come fight night and stuff, they'll test them. The problem is these tests are really easy to get around. If you're taking something and you have a camp full of guys who are coaching you on everything, you can beat these tests. The way to get the sport rid of the real PEDs is to hire outside companies. There's a company called VADA or WADA who can test. It's an independent company. The UFC, if they in theory wanted to, could hire this company and would test on a different level. They have more extensive tests. They have more random, more often tests. And I think what's happening is because the State Athletic Commission tests are inherently beatable, the sport isn't clean. And another problem is there's the whole issue about TRT, which is it's called testosterone replacement therapy, which a lot of older fighters are starting to take, and they can get exemptions from doctors. So essentially, they're injecting themselves with testosterone, or I guess you could say a form of steroid, and it's being allowed, which is kind of a tough thing. And I don't really know exactly the one thing that's going to solve it, but I do know that outside independent drug testing companies could be very big in cleaning up the sport.
Well, that leads me to my next question about Dana White. Now, this guy is a very fascinating guy in a lot of ways. He created this sport. He seems to be like the overlord of it, and he has no challenge from anywhere. And if you're him, I don't watch this stuff and think, hey, that guy's on steroids or that. I honestly, I could care less. They could all do steroids. It doesn't matter.
It's more entertaining. That's all I care.
Yeah. Like, give me a little, like, what do you, have you ever met Dana White? What's this guy all about?
Yeah, I met him one time when I went to a fight in Vegas in November. He was really nice. And, the thing about Dana is he loves MMA. He loves the UFC so much. It's his baby. But he is not at all a conventional, UFC or president of any sort of sports organization or any organization at all. He's Dana White. He says what he thinks. He doesn't really care. And I think that can be a double-edged sword for him. I think a lot of times it kind of adds to the allure and the interesting nature of UFC and MMA in general. But at the same time, he can get himself in a little bit of trouble in the way he acts and in the way he, kind of just lets it all out.
That's the allure, though. The allure is kind of this outlaw mentality. And when I think of again, like I don't know anything about this stuff. I said earlier I appreciate what these guys are doing. I mean, their skill set they have is incredible. Years of training. But it's funny when I think of it, I think of like the movie Bloodsport, and I think of like underground fighting. And then I wish that there was like cameras, like more underground. Like I want to see that.
Yeah.
Like what's going on? Like where are these guys coming from? Are they coming from like an underground fighting background? Are these guys? It seems like off the out of the octagon, a lot of these guys get into a little bit of trouble because they come from troubled backgrounds. Maybe they grew up fighting, and then when they beat somebody up on like TMZ, they get arrested for like they're like a lethal weapon. I mean, It's not like a fair fight. Who are these people picking fights with these guys? First off, but
are there underground fight clubs and stuff around?
You know what? I'm sure there are. I haven't been to any, but a lot, like you said, these guys who have come up from tough backgrounds and they make it to the UFC, and they're still kind of those people who they were getting in fights on the street. It's tough because you're suddenly out of nowhere a professional athlete, and that doesn't happen in any other sport.
Mm-hmm.
In baseball, you work your way up through the minors. You're involved in the professional nature of the sport for a long time before all the eyes are on you. For the UFC, you win one insane fight in Brazil, and they hire you to fight, in Vegas, and everyone's watching you, and suddenly you're representing one of the biggest organizations in the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a crazy thing. But to answer your question, I think most of the UFC talent these days are coming from college athletics. Whether it's football or whether it's wrestling, and they got jiu-jitsu guys coming out from all these different jiu-jitsu schools, and
it's the natural.
I mean, a lot of them have competed in athletics before they get to the UFC.
Like the evolution of the sport is, as it gets bigger, then you need more corporate sponsors,
right.
and then you have to kind of clean it up a little, and then if you do that, like how much of the original product, which was great to the first fans who really fell in love with it, are they going to like fall out of favor? It's like when they try to get rid of fighting in hockey. The hockey purists are like, hey, that's part of the game. Like, the original MMA fans like yourself, and you won't like it if these guys are coming out in business suits and all of a sudden they're LeBron James and Michael Jordan and towing the line and not being slightly controversial.
Yeah, I think there's a fine line. I think there's a fine line between becoming something that you didn't intend to turn into when you started, the UFC. With the fighters turning into not fighter type people. And then there's also going overboard and trying to just assume that the UFC is good because there are a lot of kind of scrappy guys in and out of the octagon on the shows. And I think guys like Nick Diaz, people who are inherently just fighters, and that just by the way they act, they're great for the sport. I mean, they're awesome. Everyone loves Nick Diaz, and a lot of people hate him, but it's a great thing to have a guy like that. And I think people like that, as long as the UFC keeps doing what they're doing, and as long as I think Dana White is president, they're going to be having those types of personalities. The Nick Diaz's, the guys who come out and are just like, what, they don't really care about all the press. They don't care about putting a tie on. They want to get in there and they want to beat you up.
I think that those are the best kinds. I mean, it feels like UFC, and I call it UFC. The general term would be MMA to encompass everything. I think, they take that bad publicity is publicity.
Yeah, any publicity is good publicity.
And that bad publicity they like. They like the hero versus the villains.
Except for the shirts, man. Julian, talk to me about these affliction shirts, bro. I mean, that's the part. I mean, I can't even like spit it out of my it boggles my mind. These guys that squeeze into these boys' medium loud ass T-shirts. Like, if I'm Dana White, I'm outlawing those T-shirts.
And the sparkly things, and
outlawing the T-shirts. I like that.
I mean, when you see that fan, do you immediately think, wow, this is the guy that is stopping this sport from growing? Because, like, the layman regular guy, like Mike and I, sees that guy, and we're like, I don't want to be affiliated with him, so I'm not going to watch the MMA. That's just, my take.
I certainly wouldn't want to go talk about a fight with them, and I think you're absolutely right. I hate to see that be still around, and I hate to see such a giant portion of the audience be, I guess, for a lack of a better word, such a mook. And I think they wear these shirts, and these like immature mentality. I mean, Mike knows. I'd be at South when he used to bartend there, when we used to work together, and you'd see those guys everywhere, and we would just try to hide away from it, enjoy the fight while we can, but at the same time, they're everywhere. And there's nothing you can really do besides just, move along with the UFC, continue to be a fan while you're a fan, and, eventually, they'll weed themselves out. And as the UFC becomes more of a serious sport, they're trying to get themselves to be recognized as a mainstream type sport, which I don't think
the Olympics
will fully ever happen.
I've heard Olympic talk.
Yeah. And I don't think two guys getting into a cage, in their underwear are ever going to become a mainstream sport. It is what it is. You're beating up a guy for money.
Well, we got snowboarding in. We got the half pipe in because of the money that America gives to the Olympic committees. We got snowboarding in. We'll be able to get.
I would be down with Olympics, like MMA in the Olympics. That would
like
be
a field
actually
of 64.
That would be very, very cool, actually.
Where are you going to watch the fight this week?
I'm not sure. I might watch it at home, but I don't know. Where are you going to be? Are you going to be working? I might come in to give you some bad betting advice.
I think you already have.
Come into the Parlor Hollywood. I'll be bartending.
Jay-Z be at the Parlor. For those of you that don't know,
Me too.
Julien trains very similar to a lot of these UFC guys. Follow him on Instagram at Julien Solomita. He doesn't have enough followers as of right now.
Wow.
And get him
a little jealousy there.
Get him on Twitter because he's all over Twitter. And I want to get you out of here on this question. You train quite a bit. Jay is 6'7". What do you weigh? About $140?
Well, maybe like 160.
All right, maybe we'll do this next Monday
with my hair.
Jay thinks he could take you no problem. He just wants to extend his arm, put his hand on
it.
your head, and have you punch at nothing.
Did you not listen to the part where I chopped my finger off? How am I supposed to fight this young kid with 9.5 fingers?
How long you think it'll take him to get him into a submission hold in this studio in like a 3-foot space?
3-foot space?
Yeah, but maybe like 5-foot space.
Are we filming this? Is there money on the line?
Of course we're filming this. No, there's always money on the line. Of course we're filming this.
In honor of France, I'm already waving the white flag. You win. Okay.
How long do you think it would take?
All
10
right.
seconds?
It sounded like just 1 second right there because he waved the flag. I don't know. 2 minutes?
2 minutes?
He's being nice.
Are you kidding me?
I'd take my time. I'd want to make it a nice, good-looking submission, and then I'd walk out of there.
2
drop
minutes.
the mic and leave.
So you're like the Roger Federer of MMA. You have you want to do it with a little elegance, a little grace. I respect that. Maybe wear a sport coat while you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sport coat with a nice affliction shirt underneath with the sparkles and all that shit.
Yeah, I would need to borrow Mike's affliction shirt.
I got plenty of them.
Right?
I got plenty of them. They're right underneath this nice polo shirt right here. Julian, dude, thank you so much for coming on.
Julian.
You were awesome. Enlightened us about UFC and the whole culture, all that. We definitely want to get you on next week. Thank you so much for coming on, bud.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course. That was Julien Solomita. Get him on Twitter under the same name and Instagram under the same name.
See, I really like him as a person. I enjoyed talking to him. I wish that I was introduced to MMA through people like that, and I probably wouldn't have this buildup of angst towards it. You know?
Yeah, you got a lot of angst.
Well, you do too. Don't play off like you don't. I mean, how many people do you know that really enjoy? We don't like MMA because we bartended all through it, and we had all those fans we were just talking about.
Yeah,
Julian's great. You know, it's funny and you really appreciate and respect what those guys are doing when you hear that.
Well, he knows his stuff inside and out too, so it's great to listen to someone like that. 12 o'clock here, 323-284-7826. We're going to take a quick break. We want to hear your thoughts. If you want to talk about soccer and you feel like you missed a boat, if you want to talk about MMA, give us your thoughts. If you are an Affliction rep or own Affliction clothing, don't call us. We're going to take a break. We're going to get into some NBA. We're going to wrap up some MMA stuff. We're going to talk LeBron. We're going to talk Jason Kidd. We're going to talk a little Johnny Manziel. And we're going to talk about me smoking a 8-pound
That's what I'm excited
pork
about.
shoulder this weekend at my in-laws' house. Coming back on Mostly Mike and Jay.